Welcome to the Real Estate Investors Marketing Show, where we help real estate investors gain more leads, stronger relationships, and more deals through the power of online marketing. I'm Lyndsay Phillips, your content coach and expert in all things content marketing for entrepreneurs and real estate investors. And of course, my big buddy.
I'm Aaron His. I'm a real estate investor and the world's only exclusive real estate investing copywriter.
Awesome. Now, we were joking earlier because we were talking about potatoes, weirdly enough. And it played into our podcast of how to plant seeds of marketing. So, but we're not talking about potatoes and we're not talking about lettuce. We are talking about, now, what do you call seed marketing, Aaron? Like, how do you describe it?
I describe it as like cross-pollinating all the stuff that you do. So it's like credibility and cross-pollination.
See, and that even ties into farming because the cross-pollinating and the seeds and nice.
You have a whole
Nicely
farming
done.
thing going on here.
I know. Yeah, absolutely. For me, it's almost like, in layman's terms, it's almost like casual name dropping. Like you're casually talking about your podcast. Oh, did I mention that I have a book? Which someday I will be able to do. Or your mastermind, or that you speak on stage. You are like dropping these authority bombs that you are like, awesome. You have a big company. You are speaking on stage. Everyone wants to have you as a guest on their podcast show. It's a way to show your credibility and that everyone is like seeking you for advice and your expertise. And we know quite a few people that are good at it.
It's a humble way of creating social proof because it's not like saying I'm amazing, but you're implicitly saying, "Hey, I've got an audience, and I talk to them." So why don't you give us some examples of things you could seed?
For sure. I mean, you could seed like success stories, and I hate the word testimonials because it feels so contrived. I have this testimonial. Where like if you just tell a story, it just feels so much more natural, organic, and like you're not trying to like, I don't know, be all weird and salesy or like share a case study. It just feels more natural. You could seed about your podcast. So you could say like, oh yeah, so in my podcast, episode number 5, we talked about, what kind of lead magnets you need to use to grow your REI business. You could talk about your mastermind or an event like, talking about some great strategy. I shared at this last Building Wealth with Notes event and it was so successful and people loved it, blah, 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 blah. Or you could talk about, and you can do this, Aaron, because you're an author of a couple of books. You can say, in my book, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of blah, blah, blahs in this.
Do you know the books that I've written?
Yes. The Real Estate Copywriter's Guide and Sales Funnels. I just can't remember the exact titles, but I have them on my shelf right over there. But you could say, like, in chapter 3 of my book, I share this. And instead of saying, like, I'm an author, you can just like casually drop it. Or like, hey, when I spoke on stage at, PodFest, I shared these tips. And people are like, damn, she spoke at PodFest. She must be someone. Do you know what I mean? People get that clout right away as soon as you mention those things.
Yeah, that's really good. When I saw that you wanted to talk about this, I was thinking, like, I think I do it once in a while, but not very well. Do you have any practical suggestions of how someone can integrate this into their conversations?
Honestly, it is so easy. It's like if you're speaking on stage, if you're doing podcast interviews and you're being a guest, if you do any videos, if you do live Facebooks or IGTV, if you write books, if you write blogs, if you write emails, if you have sales conversations, in other words, if you communicate to anybody in any way, you can seed something, right? It's so easy. It's like right now, for example, I did a live Facebook the other day in our real estate investors marketing Facebook group, all about this tool Loom that you can use to communicate and send personal videos to people and DM them and make yourself stand out and talk about your speaking, mention your podcast. So you see right there, I seeded the Facebook group. So you can just casually mention it in like anything you do whatsoever.
Yeah, that's really good. Maybe what I would do is I need to like remember where I talk. I should make a list of the places where
Yeah,
some of my
yeah.
stuff is, and then I'll try to remember it so that next time I'm talking on a video, I'll be like, oh yeah, right, I wrote a book. I can actually mention that.
And actually, you bring up a good point, because it is really handy to have a sheet of paper beside you. Write down, like, just in case it doesn't roll off your tongue naturally because you're focused on the video or whatever it is that you're doing. But like, the books, the programs, because there's a lot of URLs out there that we all have to remember. The URLs of where to go, who you've spoke with, situations, case studies. If you have one page that's like a bunch of little jot notes that you have handy for, like, if you are doing a podcast or if you are having a sales conversation, you can just casually like glance at it and then rhyme it off like it's nothing. It makes it so much easier. I actually do that for when I am guesting on podcast shows, because I don't remember what half of my URLs are. I'll remember my clients' URLs, but I won't remember mine. And I'll actually write them down just in case someone mentions something where I can casually, URL drop, if you will. But here's the thing, though. It has to be organic. It can't be forced. Like, it has to flow naturally with the conversation, or it feels like you're like smarmy. Don't you think?
Yeah, I agree. And you can weave it in naturally, and that's fine. But yeah, you can't just try to squeeze it in to make a point.
It's so awkward. I mean, I did earlier about the Facebook group because I was trying to make a point. Please make it sound more authentic than I just did. But oh my gosh, my business coach, Jim Palmer, who I went to a ton of his events. I spoke at his events, and close friend of mine. And he is like the freaking king of seeding. Like, and it just like, it's like it's in his blood. He just naturally like, blah, 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 my Dream Business Academy mastermind. And he just weaves it in. And actually at his events, he has like a little mini challenge. He's like, give me any topic, like, coronavirus, or, milking cows, or it can be anything. And he'll talk about the thing and then somehow weave in and seed one of his programs, one of his books, one of his events. It's like insane. It's like a skill. And
That's
Mike
really
does
neat.
that too, don't you think?
Yeah, he does.
He's very good at it.
And you reminded me when you were talking about Jim and Mike, I think that what they both do well is finding the things to seed that will kind of reinforce their point or with a maximum amount of credibility.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've done this too, that, in talking to people who wanted to hire me, for example, and if I know that they're syndicators, then I might mention, I've done some work with the real estate guys, radio show kind of people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So kind of seeding in, I was at their event. So it's just seeding in some of those real specifics that are specific to your listener or to your audience.
Yes. Yeah, it has to make sense. And you can even mention like, oh, I remember I saw this podcast on the Real Estate Investors Podcast Directory, that you, of course, have built. It's just like you're making a point, but you're casual, and they're like, oh, you're piquing their interest, I think is the one thing. And in bringing it to a real estate investing sphere, even if you don't have a book and you're not speaking on stage, it still applies to you. I mean, think about if you're talking to a buyer or a seller, or you've got a deal going down and someone has a question, you can easily say, oh yeah, I was talking to a buyer yesterday and he had that question and here's what I told him and we ended up doing this and that and we ended up closing the deal and we got an ROI of blah 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 or whatever the situation is. But you can just casually explain a situation that is similar to them that'll demonstrate your effectiveness and demonstrate your skills and your experience. And I think that's, again, even if you have a cheat sheet and you've got like, 5 key scenarios, even if you're a newbie, there's like 5 little scenarios that you think, oh man, I crushed that, or I like gave the perfect answer, or I had this win, whatever it is, write it down so that it can roll off your tongue if someone ever asks you a similar question, that you can use that case for them.
That's really good. I really liked that point because, not everyone has a book or a video show, and even the newbies have some great value that they can share. I think that's really good.
Yeah, absolutely. And even learning from your past lessons, you can say, oh God, I remember when I did my first deal and I was like in like a hound and I did this, and this, and it totally screwed it up and I messed up, but I learned from it and now I do this. So not only are you showing that you're relatable, that you've been there, done that, you've learned your lessons, but now you know exactly what it is that you need to do and what you need not to do. So you can even take a bad story and turn it good and kind of seed that and weave that into your stories.
And saying that, you reminded me some of the work I've done with really, really newbie investors who have zero investing experience, but they're trying to build some credibility anyway, is you don't have to have investing experience. If you have helped anyone in any kind of, in any situation, you want to talk to a seller, you don't have to have worked with sellers in the past to say, well, I did help this person. You don't have to be another seller, but they can be someone that you've helped in a totally different situation. But it just shows that you're trustworthy and dependable and you get stuff done. So you can seed in things that aren't specific to real estate investing and that will still serve you.
I know, that's so true. It's almost like, don't you feel like this is going back to like when you had like job interviews and you had to like seed, like talk about past experience, and but all of it really, like bottom line is that you're showing credibility. You're showing that you're an authority. You're showing that you're trustworthy and that you know your crap.
Job interviews.
Ugh.
Yeah. No thanks. I'm
good. We're good working from home. As I'm sure are the rest of you. Yeah. So hopefully I think that's a wrap, unless you've got anything else to add. But
no, I was going to wrap things up here. I think that was really practical and insightful. So thank you for that, and you gave me some great some great specific tips that I'm going to take away and apply to my own business too. So
there you go. Nice. So now I challenge everyone here to now write a cheat sheet and then seed in any sales calls or copy or videos or podcasts that you do.
Yeah, that's really good. All right. Thank you, Lyndsay. And that's a wrap for the Real Estate Investors Marketing Show for today. Thanks so much for listening, and congratulations on taking steps to market your investing business. Whether you're involved in wholesaling, flipping, note investing, rentals, single or family, commercial, syndication, or coaching, we get what you do and what marketing strategies will work for you to help you reach your goals. Be sure to join the Real Estate Investors Marketing Group in Facebook, and we'll share strategies, tools, tips, and tricks to grow your authority, build more relationships, and market your real estate investing business. So head over to reimarketinggroup.com.
All right, see you folks.
See ya.